Hey y'all, I'm Mr. Jordan from the Public Library, and I want to talk to you today about some really cool artists and some books about artists. Now, is anyone here an artist or wants to be an artist? You want to raise your hand? If you're a really good artist or you're a great artist, what do you like to do? All right, you like to draw. I like to draw, and actually, um, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist. I love to draw. I love to make things. And so, what does it mean to be an artist? What kind of things do artists do? Anybody? Yeah, you could love to draw, love to paint, make things like puppets or clothes. It could be really anything you love to make. And I think that's awesome to make stuff. And so maybe some of you, maybe one day you want to be an artist, or maybe you don't want to be an artist, but you just really love art. You love pictures, you love stories. I mean, who doesn't like that kind of thing? So not only do I like to make art, I like to learn about other people who make art, about other artists. So that's why we're here today. We're going to look at some books. I have 4 books all about artists. And these are books called biographies. So anybody here, can you tell me what is a biography? Does anybody know? Yeah, a biography is a book about somebody's life. And so these are all about artists. And so somebody decided these guys had such amazing lives. I want to make a book about their life and about their art. So, any y'all ever wonder, hey, maybe one day somebody will write a book about me. Maybe you'll be a famous artist. That would be cool, right? So, I want to tell you first off about an artist named Tony Sarg. And this is in a book called Balloons Over Broadway by Melissa Sweet. And we'll be talking a lot about her today. So I'll mention her because she's going to be the artist actually who makes most of these books. All right, well, have y'all ever seen the Macy's Day Parade that comes on Thanksgiving? And if you've seen that, you've seen the big, giant balloon puppets that they have for the parade, and you can't miss them. They're amazing. Well, this book is about the guy, Tony, who made those puppets. So if you want to know more about those giant puppets on the Macy's Day Parade, you got to read this book. Now let me show you a few pictures from this book by Melissa Sweet. And the way she makes her art is through collage or mixed media. She takes these different objects and photographs them, and she might draw as well to make a picture. And she puts it all together, mixes it all together for a really cool looking book. So let me tell you a little bit about Tony. He was a puppeteer. He made puppets. And so he helped make the puppets for Macy's Day Parade. And the parade got bigger and bigger every year. And one year, they even brought some lions and some tigers. But they scared the children. They roared and they growled. And so Mr. Macy asked Tony, can you think of something spectacular to replace these animals with? And Tony said, okay. So Tony wanted to replace the animals with some puppets. But the problem was his puppets, they were marionettes. They were only about 3 feet tall. So how could he make some tiger puppets or some lion puppets that were gigantic, that everybody could see, and that wouldn't scare the children? So if you want to find out, you've got to read Balloons Over Broadway. It's a great book. Well, the next artist I want to talk to you about is William Carlos Williams. And this is in a book by Jen Bryant, illustrated by Melissa Sweet, called A River of Words, the story of William Carlos Williams. A River of Words. That's an interesting title. What do you think about when you hear that? Anything? Anybody? Maybe you think about somebody talking a whole lot, a river of words just coming out of their mouth. They just can't stop talking. You ever meet anybody like that? Or maybe you could see a river of actually made out of words. That would be really cool. You could swim in all the words. Well, it's a really fun thing about words and about writing and poetry, is that it can give you an image in your head just from reading those words on the page. And that's what this book is kind of about William, who was a poet. He loved to write poetry. And so let me show you a few of the awesome pictures in here by Melissa Sweet. And it also has poems that Willie wrote. And if you want to read those poems, check out this book. So here's another opening picture from Melissa Sweet. And you can see all the different kind of photos and scraps of paper that she's put together to make her pictures, making a collage. So maybe you can try that too one day. You can make your own collage, cut out pieces of newspaper or magazines and make a picture. Well, when Willie was a boy, he loved to go outside and explore. He'd hop over fences and he'd go and listen to the river run and lie down by the river. And he enjoyed it so much it brought different images and feelings to him. And later he would write about those kind of things, about everyday things. A wheelbarrow, some chickens, just things that he observed out in nature. And that's what inspired him. So that's what artists do. They take things from the real world and they write about it, or they draw pictures of things that inspire them. Well, Willie loved to write, but it's hard to make money on just writing poems. So what did he do to make money and still be a poet? You have to read this book to find out. I'm not going to tell you. It's a little secret. But it's just something to say that you can still be an artist, but that doesn't always mean your job will always be an artist. You might be a doctor, you might be a lawyer or a teacher, but you could still love art and kind of do both at the same time. And that's what William Carlos Williams did. And even though his job was to be something else, he's more famous now for being a poet. So that's pretty awesome. Well, speaking of lots of words, we have a book called The Right Word. And this is Roget and His Thesaurus by Jen Bryant, illustrated by Melissa Sweet. So have you ever tried to find the right word and you just couldn't get it out? You didn't think of it in time, and later you realize, oh, I should have said something. Or maybe you're shy and you have a hard time speaking up, and if you could just find the right word, that would help you out. Well, that is kind of what this book and this person is like. So we have a boy named Peter, and he loves to make lists. He's very shy, and instead of hanging out and talking to a lot of people, he'll wander around and he'll make lists, and we'll see some of his lists in this book. But his mother would always kind of worry about him. She'd think he was lost. He would be out walking around in the garden and looking at the plants and the trees and making lists of all of them. Here's a list of some of his words. Different types of animals. That kind of stuff. So one day he showed up from wandering around and his mother said, "Peter, you're safe. Thank goodness, I thought you were lost." And Peter said, "Mama, don't worry." But then he thought, perhaps worry wasn't quite the right word. What was the right word? Peter began a new list. Worry, fret, intrude, badger, annoy. Ah, how wonderful it felt to find just the right word. So Peter carried this idea around with him about what if there was a book filled with all the words possible that would help you find just the right word, the best word, the one that really fit. And he carried that idea around like a secret treasure. So if you want to know more about his secret treasure and how he got the courage to share that idea, would he be able to share that idea because he was so shy? We'll find out. Read The Right Word, and maybe it'll help you find the right word. And if that's the case, if you're looking for the right word for something, we now have something called the thesaurus because of Peter and his idea. So look it up. Ask your parents about getting a thesaurus, and it'll help you find all sorts of words that mean the same thing, but you could find the right word to help you really say what you want to say. And that's all about being an artist, is finding the right thing to say at the right time. Well, for our last book today, we have A Splash of Red, The Life and Art of Horace Pippin. And so we've talked about words, but this is a book about a painter, a boy who when he was young, he loved to draw. And so again, this is written by Jen Bryant and illustrated in collage and mixed media by Melissa Sweet. So we have some really great pictures of Horace as a boy. And ever since he was little, he loved to draw. He would sit on the floor and grab pieces of scrap paper and charcoal from the fireplace, and he would draw pictures from the day of things that he saw and things that made him happy. And his pictures would always make people happy too. In school, he was quiet, but his hands were always busy, and his classmates would say, "Horace, make us a picture." And he would. But his teacher would get mad because sometimes he'd draw pictures like this on his spelling list. He just loved to draw so much he couldn't stop. Well, even when he got bigger, when he grew up, he would always draw. People would always ask him, "Horace, make us a picture. Make us a picture." And he did. Well, Horace lived in a time when the United States got into a war with Germany. And so Horace went off to fight in the cold, dark, wet war. And he wrote one time, "I have not seen the sun in more than a month," because he lived in a trench, in a ditch pretty much, during his fight in the war. Can you imagine living in a ditch and not seeing the sun for a month? That would be crazy. Well, unfortunately, because a war is pretty ugly and violent, one day he climbed out of his trench and he got hit in the shoulder with a bullet. So that was his right arm. That was the arm that he used to draw his pictures. So we know because of this book, he went on to become a famous artist and make pictures. But for a long time, he was handicapped and he couldn't do it. So how did Horace Pippin become the great artist that he became? So you've got to read A Splash of Red to find out. Now, I've made bookmarks for all these books with their titles and the author's name for you to remember. So you can go to your library at school or the public library where I work and come talk to me. We'll get you some of these books and other books about great artists. And I hope these books have inspired you to either want to learn more about art or maybe go and do some of your art yourself. You could do a collage like Melissa Sweet and get some newspaper, some photographs, and put together your own pictures and tell your own story. So thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Take care.